Welcome to today's Explainer. We're tracking the long, incredibly bloody, and just totally fascinating journey of the world's most contested diamond, the Kohinoor. It's a massive story about empires rising, crumbling, backstabbing, and this undeniable pull that's literally captivated humanity for centuries. But before we dive in, think about this. Gifted, stolen, or taken by force, but never bought or sold. Throughout its roughly 700-year recorded journey across continents and dynasties, this priceless jewel was never, not once, part of a commercial transaction. No one ever bought it, no one ever sold it. It was looted, secretly gifted, handed over in treaties, hidden in turbans. It shifted from a sacred religious artifact to a bloody prize of war. But money? Money never actually changed hands. So, to figure out how that's even possible, here's our roadmap for today. We'll hit 1. Myths, minds, and origins. 2. The bloody Mughal years. 3. The Mountain of Light. 4. Fall of the Sikh Empire. 5. The British Crown's jewel. And finally, 6. The modern dispute. Let's get into it. Starting right at the beginning. Section 1, Myths, Minds, and Origins. We have to go back to a time when literally the only place on Earth you could find diamond mines was India. Now, when this diamond was first discovered, way back in the 13th century in the Kohinoor mines during the Kakatiya dynasty, it was the largest diamond in the world. It weighed a staggering 793 carats. To put that into perspective, the Kakatiya king was so blown away by its brilliance, he actually had it set directly into the left eye of his dynasty's patron goddess, Bhadrakali. But you know, a sacred jewel of that magnitude, it wasn't going to stay a secret for long. Word reached the Delhi Sultanate. Alauddin Khilji's forces attacked, looted the diamond, and basically set off this massive chain reaction. For the next 300 years, the diamond became the ultimate prize of conquest. Defeat a ruler, claim the diamond. It passed like a hot potato through the Khiljis, the Tughlaqs, the Malwa kings, the rulers of Gwalior, and eventually landed in the hands of the Lodi dynasty. And that relentless cycle of warfare brings us to Section 2, the bloody Mughal years. This era really kicks off with a massive battle at Panipat in 1526. The Mughal conqueror Babur defeats the Lodis, and the diamond falls right into Mughal hands. And Babur was just completely mesmerized by it. He actually wrote about it in his famous autobiography, The Baburmana, claiming its value was so immense it could feed the entire world for a single day. But here's a fun historical quirk for you. Even though he wrote about it in total awe, Babur never actually called it the Kohinoor. That name didn't even exist yet. So, let's fast forward a bit through the Mughal lineage to Shah Jahan, the guy who built the Taj Mahal. He decides to make the diamond the ultimate symbol of his power, putting it right in the center of his legendary peacock throne. A throne, by the way, that cost twice as much as the Taj Mahal itself. But family drama strikes. In a brutal twist, his own son, Aurangzeb, usurps the throne, throws his dad in prison, and takes the diamond. Then, Aurangzeb makes a massive mistake. He hands this majestic 793-carat stone over to a famed jeweler for a recut. Well, the jeweler botches it. Terribly. He shatters massive chunks of the stone, shrinking it down to just 186 carats. Aurangzeb was absolutely furious and heavily fined the guy, but the damage was permanently done. All right, as the Mughal Empire started to weaken over the centuries, the diamond was ripe for the taking once again, bringing us to Section 3, the Mountain of Light. So, the year is 1739. The Iranian conqueror Nader Shah decimates Delhi, looting everything in sight, including that famous peacock throne. But he can't find the great diamond. Why? Well, because the defeated Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah Rangila, was secretly hiding it right inside his turban. When Nader Shah caught wind of this, he pulled a pretty clever trick. He proposed exchanging turbans as a quote-unquote symbol of their newfound friendship. Rangila, who literally just lost a war, couldn't exactly say no. So when Nader Shah unravels the turban, out tumbles the diamond, catching the light. He's so stunned he shouts Kohinoor, which translates from Persian to Mountain of Light. And boom, that is exactly how it finally got its famous name. But Nader Shah's triumph? Yeah, very short-lived. And this brings up the infamous curse of the Kohinoor. Historically speaking, almost every single male king who possessed this stone, from Humayun and Shah Jahan to Nader Shah himself, suffered just horrific fates. We're talking lost empires, madness, imprisonment, assassination. Nader Shah actually went mad and was murdered by his own guards. Fast forward a bit, and when the diamond finally made its way to the British, they took this lore really seriously. In fact, to this day, British royal protocol dictates that the Kohinoor can only be worn by female royals, never a male king. all to deliberately sidestep this dark, bloody history. Now, after Nadir Shah's death, the diamond was taken over to Afghanistan. And to really grasp the mythological aura it carried by this point, listen to how Wafa Begum, the wife of the Afghan ruler Shah Shuja, described it. She said, "If 4 strong men threw stones in 4 directions and 1 upwards, and the space was filled with gold, it still wouldn't equal the Kohinoor's value." Wow. By this point, it wasn't just a shiny rock anymore. It was the absolute ultimate symbol of supreme incalculable power. But as we've seen, empires always fall. This brings us right into the 19th century and Section 4, Fall of the Sikh Empire. So Shah Shuja gets overthrown in Afghanistan and flees to Lahore. Fleeing with him, the diamond finds its way back to the Indian subcontinent. It was actually gifted out of immense gratitude to the powerful Sikh ruler who gave him refuge, Maharaja Ranjit Singh. He absolutely loved the diamond, wore it proudly on his arm during festivals. But wouldn't you know it? The curse seemed to strike again. Ranjit Singh dies in 1839. Fun fact, before he died, he actually wanted to donate the diamond to a temple, but his ministers flat out refused. Anyway, following his death, the Sikh empire just plunges into total chaos. Successive kings are assassinated left and right, until finally a 5-year-old boy named Duleep Singh is placed on the throne. Seeing this obvious vulnerability, the British attack. And by 1849, the defeated Sikh empire is forced to sign the Treaty of Lahore, a treaty that required this young boy king to formally surrender the Kohinoor. And just like that, the most fiercely contested gem in Asia transitioned into a potent symbol of colonial dominance. Welcome to Section 5, the British Crown's Jewel. So, the British Governor-General Lord Dalhousie takes personal possession of it, and the sheer paranoia involved in transporting this thing back to the UK is amazing. In 1850, it gets loaded onto a ship bound for Britain under total secrecy. We're talking so secret that even the ship's crew had no idea what they were carrying. The ship actually nearly sank in a massive ocean storm, but it did eventually make it to London. But here's the funny part. When it was finally displayed to the British public at the Crystal Palace, the crowd was surprisingly underwhelmed. They basically thought it looked dull compared to modern European cuts. So Queen Victoria decides to fix that, which results in the final physical butchering of the stone. Remember, it started at a massive 793 carats in the 13th century. Then Aurangzeb's jeweler hacked it down to 186. Well, in 1852, to appease European tastes that valued brilliance over raw size, Queen Victoria ordered a grueling 38-day recut. It was shaved all the way down to the 105.6 carats it is today. It permanently altered its historic shape, right before it was set into the British crown. Which brings us to the present day, Section 6, the modern ownership dispute. Today, the Kohinoor isn't just a quiet museum piece. It's at the very center of a massive diplomatic tug-of-war. Currently, 4 modern nations lay claim to the diamond: India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran. And honestly, if you've been following the history we just went through, you can see exactly why. It's like a giant puzzle. The diamond's tangled legacy crosses multiple shifting borders. I mean, it was mined in India, held by Iranian conquerors, kept by Afghan rulers, and surrendered from a city that is now in modern-day Pakistan. Every single one of these nations argues that their historical connection grants them rightful ownership. But let's look at the UK's position. The British stance is simply that the diamond was legally acquired under the 1849 Treaty of Lahore. And what makes this so legally complex is that even within the claiming nations, interpretations vary. Take India, for example. In 2016, India's own Solicitor General stated during a Supreme Court hearing that the diamond was formally surrendered to the British via a treaty by Maharaja Duleep Singh, rather than just being stolen outright. So it really highlights the incredible legal and historical knot that binds this diamond, with Britain maintaining that it's an integrated part of their heritage after holding it for over 150 years. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought-provoking question. When an object has a history built on centuries of conquest, shifting borders, forced treaties, and blood, who does it truly belong to? Can an artifact born from the rise and fall of empires ever really have one single rightful owner in the modern world? It's a fascinating question for sure, and one that pretty much guarantees the Mountain of Light is going to remain controversial for generations to come. Thanks for joining me today, and keep questioning the history behind the world's most famous treasures.